So getting this thing started, man, how would you describe what exactly it is that you do? What is it that you talk about? What are you really about?
Sure. So, assuming that there's been no previous introduction, my name is Stewart Dixon. I'm primarily an author, and I write about spirituality in a variety of ways, mostly in irreverent and iconoclastic and humorous ways. And I got into spirituality essentially because I suffered from depression starting when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And I was in college. And instead of pharmaceuticals and conventional Western therapy, I opted to investigate spirituality at that time. And lo and behold, I found that there was some truth to it. I had my first foray into this realm was through out-of-body experiences. And I had a few out-of-body experiences in my early college years. And I was like, oh, okay, there's more to life than this meat bag. And so that began basically a lifelong spiritual search to primarily my motivation was to just feel comfortable in my own skin, to feel okay, to feel like I wasn't born on the wrong planet, which were all of the symptoms that I was suffering from with this depression. And so one thing led to another. I got involved with many, many different teachers, many different books, and I found myself in this very strange classroom called Nonduality. Let me see. Fast forward from the time I was 18 to, I guess I was around 40 years old is when I went through my own gestalt, my own spiritual awakening, where I walked through a little doorway, and took me a couple of weeks, weirdly enough, to realize, oh, this is what awakening is. And one of the hallmarks of that awakening was that this feeling of depression, this feeling of separation, this feeling of being born on the wrong planet had dissipated, had gone away, and it has been gone for 15 years now. So along with that, there are some other bells and whistles side effects that certainly do come with awakening. And I think I teach and I write the way that I write, irreverent, funny, humorous spirituality for badasses. I write that way because I never really got into this business because I wanted to be a teacher or a guru or a saint or anything. I was just hurting. I was just not feeling like many, many people. I was not feeling okay. Anxiety, depression, stress. And I just wanted that to go away. And it's very simple. So when I went through the process, when I went through the spiritual process over the years, it was never about really becoming more spiritual or attaining any enlightenment or awakening. I wasn't interested in that. I just wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel okay. And that happened. And then, but of course, along the way, I learned about non-duality. I learned about Advaita Vedanta, about Zen, about Buddhism, about meditation, about yoga, all the things that are in the, spirituality school. And then when I did wake up, very oddly, I just wasn't interested in spouting out the typical stuff that is spouted out by most of the non-dual teachers. Mm-hmm. I was into non-duality, man, before this shit was even called in the United States non-duality, before it was even known. Mm-hmm. When I got involved in it, there were very few teachers that were teaching actually the thrust of the bulk of paradoxical spirituality, which is really kind of the essence of non-duality. Yeah. Paradoxical spirituality just wasn't taught. There was yoga, where it was like point A to point Z. You do all these exercises, you become better and better and shinier and shinier and happier, which of course is just a bunch of bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's how most spirituality was sold back in the day. And there were very few teachers that sold it otherwise. But when they started, when the wave in the early 90s of teachers started coming over to the United States, all on the heels of an Indian guru named Papaji, or sometimes called Punjaji, whose lineage was Advaita, and I think he had something to do with Ramana Maharshi as well. So all these American realized students, not all of them, but a handful of them, came to the United States and started teaching. Examples of those types of teachers are Arjuna Nick Ardaw, Gangaji, Eli Jackson Bear, her husband, John de Ruyter, Andrew Cohen, big one. To a certain extent, what is his name? Oh gosh, I'm going to forget it right now. But Ken Wilber. Mm-hmm. So they all started coming to the United States, and at that time I had a little black book, and I had all these teachers that were teaching non-duality, and I sat with them, and it was invaluable. But it was before it was non-dual,
before the label non-dual. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was before the label.
Yeah,
it was before the label, Advaita. So, so now we live in an era where that's very common, and it's great because it basically shows that teaching has worked essentially. And I look at it as all good. I bark and am always first in line to make fun of non-dual teachers, but I've earned the right. I've been around for decades. Mm-hmm. But they're, I love them all. It's all good. And even the flimsiest ones, part of the evolution of non-duality. And I fall into this category as well as any other teacher or author, is that you begin teaching, when you're really new at it, when you may have had an awakening experience or an actual awakening, definitive moment. But even then, how you convey what you've experienced to the rest of the world can still be on shaky ground, because there's a lot of integration that goes through after awakening. Mm-hmm. And so you see a lot of teachers that they're just in the various stages of post-awakening, or real enthusiastic or about what they've experienced. And I think it's great. I think it's awesome. There's all sorts of teachers out there for all sorts of people. And I've got no problem with any of it. Yet simultaneously, I'm totally willing to, when I see a video come across my YouTube page, just like laugh at like, oh my God, yeah, that's just so cliche. And that's just so like, or boring. Most of them are boring.
Yeah.
Whatever. So.
Yeah, I know. I've seen plenty of them too. I am in the realm. My algorithm is in the realm of seeing pretty much everybody that is within this quote non-dual Advaita, neo-Advaita realm. And there are seeming to be levels to this thing for sure. There seems to be like levels of understanding when it really comes down to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not everybody should be a teacher. It is good. I guess it is an honorable pursuit, in itself. But I don't think just because you have a microphone and a camera means you should go on and try to teach people. As long as you don't say, I am the teacher, I am the way, I guess there's no harm in it. I guess if you just turn on the camera and you just talk and like, really, I don't see any harm in it.
Me neither.
As long as you're not like saying that the person needs you for truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to generalize like that, because everybody's their own individual and how they teach, and there's, like I said, different levels of understanding and different ways to teach.
You could take an example of let's say with Muji, whom I've met in person when he first started teaching in a room where there was 5 other people. And I just thought, wow, he was the first African American that I had seen who was out teaching non-dual principles. And this is, I can't remember if this is before or after my own awakening, but was really nice to see this guy. He was awesome, really down to earth. I think he had dreadlocks then, and I thought the world of him. But then slowly over time, his teaching evolved into this massive juggernaut, basically.
Mhm.
And you'll see pictures of a hall of hundreds of people, and they all got their hands up doing the typical type of Hindu devotional postures.
Mhm.
And I would say probably based on my experience with seeing teachers grow into that kind of space, that is probably become watered down and has probably become less effective for those who want to wake up.
Yeah.
But that's good. You see, therein lies the paradox, because you've created this cauldron where a whole bunch of people are in, and inevitably some of them are going to become frustrated with it and realize, wow, I'm just hanging out with a big, probably mostly benign cult.
Yeah.
And no one's waking up, and then they leave, and then they actually pursue, and that's how it works. And that's all good.
It's some kind of inadvertent teaching that comes from cult-like mentality.
Yeah. I mean, even Bentino Massaro, who's been in the news. Do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With a cult, and I think they're out in Flagstaff or someplace like that. Same thing.
Yeah.
Man, hey, if he great, good on him. If he's, I'm sure he's created a thing where thousands of people love hanging out with him and like his teaching. And I've never met him before. And same thing, like there's probably a handful that get it, and then there's another handful become completely frustrated and they move on. And that frustration and that moving on is part of their personal journey. It can be, yes, in the grand scheme of things, is like, is it a cult that's a negative cult? Is it creepy? Are there violations going on? Are there boundaries being crossed that shouldn't be boundaries? Those questions definitely should be asked when it gets to be that size. And I don't really know the answer to that when it comes to, most teachers these days, because I don't hang out with many teachers these days. So
there's all different kinds of cults and cult-like mentality for sure.
Yeah.
I always like to preface all of my videos and talks by saying, you don't need me. You don't need actually anything. You don't need really anything. Like, the true spiritual path is one that has to be tread by oneself. When it really comes down to it, guidance is very helpful, but only to a certain extent. And it can be actually very dangerous when you mistake the finger for the moon, the finger pointing at the moon for the moon. So tread lightly for sure when it comes to this, because then you may find yourself in a cult if you get sucked in a little bit too much to whatever this finger is, because some of those fingers have good looks, they have charisma, they just have a way with words, and that's dangerous. It's definitely dangerous for sure. So I preface everything. Anybody listen, you don't need me. You don't need anything that I say. If you find help out of it, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your appreciation. But at the end of the day, I don't want any cult of Gary anytime soon.
What are you talking about, man? The cult of Gary that's a good ring to it, actually.
Maybe. Don't get me thinking, man. Don't.
Gary.
Yeah, right. Maybe someday, but I don't even want to go there. I feel like it wouldn't service anybody. It definitely wouldn't service me. It would only inflate my ego even more. But we'll see. We'll see where it ends up.
Oh,
but,
okay. So before we started this interview, you said I was allowed to turn the tables, and I will. So I want to go back to that question I asked you. So what was your thing? What beyond curiosity? What was the thing that got you into spirituality? What was not working for you that said, maybe there's answers here?
Very similar to you, man. Just mental illness, mental ailments, feeling that something wasn't right. Something wasn't adding up. And I was born in a relatively good life. I never really experienced classical struggle. I never missed a meal in my life. I've lived a pretty good life. But yet, still, there was something missing. There was some kind of yearning for, like, what's really going on here? What am I really supposed to do? Maybe a true yearning for purpose, right? Like, truly knowing what the human condition is about. in the essence of more than just materialism, more than just a paycheck, more than just
Yeah.
trying to feel good and not feel bad.
Yeah.
There was that kind of like, what is really this thing about, man? That's kind of what led the way. And
Yeah.
all of that stemmed down to depression, I think.
Yeah.
Just having no purpose, having no true meaning of what the human condition is about, no yearning for truth, leads to depression, anxiety, leads to just this general angst within oneself, which I think is actually grace at the end of the day. If you utilize and transmute your depression, your mental illness into following the path, it actually can be grace. So summing it up, man, it really is just like a general sense of just like, what is this? What is this life? You know, I got everything, got people that love me, got a good life, yet something was off. So I figured following the path, that offness started to turn on. You know, it started to be like, okay, this is what it's about. And this is literally in the moment right now. I still feel that. I still feel similarly as when I started the path as I do now. And even more so, like the more that I have these talks and read books, I just read the Upanishads and some suttas before this, I feel like, this is it. When I hear Dharma, when I read Dharma, when I talk to people like you, I'm like, this is what life is about. It doesn't negate the stuff of like me having to survive and, you know, put food on the table and, you know, it doesn't negate the humanly stuff. That's for sure. That stuff still goes on, but I know that's not the pinnacle. That's just kind of secondary to Dharma. And from there, that's how I base everything now, is that really what life is about is, I'm not even going to try to explain it. Life is about figuring out what life is about in a way. You know? It's about figuring out who and what you are, really. And from there, that just leads the way throughout all endeavors of our life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'm very similar. I had very loving parents, and I had never went without a meal, went to a really good high school and college, and this upper middle class white male American, like, click off every fucking advantage, right? Right there.
The privileges, right?
Yeah, every single one of them, you know. And I'm like, I'm fucking unhappy. What the fuck? Why do I feel unhappy? And I couldn't deny it, you know. I couldn't deny it. And it sounds like you were in the same boat, and you just like, there's gotta be, you know, thank you life, thank you whatever circumstances, thank you karma, thank you thousands of other lifetimes of dealing with my shit. But this isn't doing it for me. There's got to be, you know, there's got to be more. Is there something beyond this? And that's how I felt. That's how I felt as well. And similar package. So what was the thing for you what was the first thing for you that was a yes to spirituality? Like, okay, this shit's real. What was that? What was that for you?
I've had a lot of those. It's a tough one. The first one chronologically, I would say when I started to get into meditation, when I started to stop looking for that outward validation, whether it's from, you know, food, girls, just general like outside, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of it. Just like, rather than pointing my attention outward and looking out there, like trying to grasp out there, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. No, it's really just looking inward. It's like a total opposite of perspective. And that was just led through meditation, like actually consistent, earnest, ritual-like meditation. That's when it really started to click. Because I was always curious, but you said don't talk about curiosity other than curiosity, but I was always curious. Yeah. You know, I was always into like figuring out what the heck all of this is about, but it was more so through like science and, you know, trying to figure out stuff that other people figured out through the material world. And that was cool, but it still never added up. But it started to add up. when I went within. And that's when I started to literally subjectively feel this difference in the spiritual path.
Right.
It's more than just sitting in a room with your eyes closed, you know. It's way more than that. I mean, it's actually not more than that. I mean, it's not just that. It's not just sitting in a room with your eyes closed. Like meditation it's hard to explain, but true earnest meditation is very, very powerful. That, and then I also started to get into doing asana yoga. That was very powerful. All the different modalities, man. Yoga,
psychedelics.
That's definitely one of them. That didn't come first though. I got into psychedelics after getting on the path, but the psychedelics were the giant confirmation. That was like, yes, the sages were right. What they say is true. This is really the path. This is very, very, this is truer than true. And that was like, magic mushrooms was just like a giant like validation to the Dharma to me. And is it similar? Have you had psychedelic experiences in the same way?
I continue to this day. I mean, it's fun. It's cannabis, mushrooms, another one called Salvia divinorum.
Wow.
I've not done ayahuasca or mescaline, although funny enough, in book 2, I wrote about mescaline with a bunch of research, and I just loosely based it on my psilocybin experiences. Mescaline is really hard to come by, and it's a Native American thing, and you should do it in a sweat lodge. And when I was writing the book, I just didn't have the resources to go out west and find an Indian territory where I could be guided with mescaline. I would have, for sure. And I'd love, on my bucket list is to do an ayahuasca retreat somewhere, preferably south, Costa Rica or Panama or wherever. Amazon, that'd be great too. It's totally on my bucket. I think. Well, so let's back up a little bit. So there's the greater wisdom to be derived from meditation, and certainly from psychedelics, is to at the bottom line, the ground level, is to notice the noticer, is to notice this witness, is to notice that there's an observer. And meditation certainly loosens that up. It loosens the tight grip that ego and mind has on the being. And it allows you to see that, there's this other element, there's this observing, aware, witnessing, watching part. And that's fundamental. That's like 101 in terms of the type of thoughts. Just the type of spirituality that we're into. That's kind of like, that's 101 right there. And I of course went through that as well. And then psychedelics come in, and what happens is, if you've already tread a path with meditation, and you become more self-aware, and you've dealt with some inner emotional issues, and you've dealt with the mental aspects of mind and ego. Usually what happens when you do psychedelics, if you have that as your background, is that you'll go right back to the best spot that you achieved in meditation. It'll usually take you, not a guarantee every single time, but usually. And so you have a little bit of cannabis, you drop into the body, your heart rate goes up, you're super relaxed, your mind drops to the background, and what's left? Well, it's the aware, witnessing, watching part. And that's certainly true with mushrooms too. So I mean, I the day and age that we live in is really, really awesome, with the legalization of cannabis coming online in every election in every state. There's always a new state that jumps on board, and slowly but surely also psilocybin is being more accepted in research atmospheres and in research facilities for depression, for PTSD. for anxiety, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, all of that's just really, really good news in terms of conscious evolution and conscious development.
Yeah.
Those are that mixture of meditation and a wise use of psychedelics, not a partying, Burning Man fucking use of psychedelics, but a wise use of psychedelics leads to a more conscious society and a more conscious individual, I think.
Amen.
So I'm with you on that. So,
Amen. Yeah. That's the most important part about it, is how we use these things. Because in aid to my meditation, I was smoking a bunch of weed.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally, right before a meditation session, have a smoke session. And that is like, that puts your meditation on steroids, honestly. If you utilize it in that way, rather than, going to watch a movie or doing whatever it is after you smoke weed. If you go right into meditation, you will come face to face with that witness. It's very easy. And it almost like accelerates that. Because if the point of meditation, if there is a point, if it is to come into the essence of the witness, to be able to let what comes come and let what goes go, as Ramana Maharshi says, you can easily do that off of marijuana. It will just boom, you're right there. You're right there. So I would recommend that to everybody. If you are into cannabis and you are into meditation, combine them and see what happens. And I totally agree, man. Also too, that's a very another salient point here for those interested in this type of thing, is that your shit's going to come up too. It's not like, oh, you're just going to go to that witnessing, watching, pure, blissful spot of cannabis. If you've got shit that's buried, if you've got fear, if you've got something you haven't dealt with, if you're in that space, usually it's going to come right up. Your heart rate's going to go up, and you're going to have an oh shit moment of, of fear, and I'm like, oh God, okay, I need to really be with this. Yeah. It'll jump. That's what have you experienced that? Oh yeah, for sure. But I think that's ultimately the point of cannabis, to be honest. It may seem like, why would I want to feel like that? But no, actually, if you go headfirst into it like that, it can be beneficial. It'll show you things that you don't necessarily want to see, but you should see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel as though that's the point, is we're able to see it and witness it and confront it and know that, oh, wait, that's not me. Like I think, you do enter the witness state, but in that witness state, you might not witness butterflies and rainbows, beautiful vistas and bunny rabbits. You might witness the demons as well. But that's the point. And you can see that they're almost equal in the witness state. You may feel different physiologically. Like you said, your heart rate might get going. It might seem a little scary, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to the witness state. But that's just part of the path, man. That is part of the path. We gotta confront the demons within. We all got that within. We all got the beast and skeletons in our closet, and coming to approach the state of witness, the Brahman within, you have to recognize the humanness, the futility of the human condition, the karma that we have to reap, per se, in the meditation sessions. And point of the story is cannabis is like very efficient to do with that. For sure. Yeah.
I would agree. I regularly partake in gummies. So I'm married and I have a son. He's 16, and I don't like gummies. Are very clean, and you can cut them up. And it for me, it's like a glass of wine. If I have a quarter of a gummy that has whatever, a couple grams of THC in it. And that's always, I think that's one of the benefits. Like I can go down, it's legal in Virginia. I can go 2 miles down the road. There's a cannabis supply store, and I know that it's safe. And it's the same thing every single time. Just like buying a bottle of wine. It's like, you want to know that it's safe, that it's packaged, it's professional, that's not been contaminated with something and you want to know what, you can read the label. Oh, this is 16% alcohol, that's good enough for me, and So that's a really great, I again view nothing, the cannabis revolution that's happening right now in the United States. The United States is going through a shitstorm of division and political bullshit, and haves against the have-nots and the 1% and the loss of the middle class. I mean, it's in shit condition. But there's one silver lining, and it's called marijuana.
all while weed's becoming legal. That's pretty funny.
Right. I mean, it's really, it's really funny that we go through, it's like, you may not agree with your neighbor on politics, but goddamn, I guarantee you, these days you're probably both on the same, probably bump into each other at the same cannabis store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that plenty of times. Weed brings people together.
Yeah, man.
Definitely has potential.
I agree with that too. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean the whole I'll take us in another direction. This is something that has been weighing on for me personally in my own spiritual journey, that everyone has to contend with along the path, is that you go through these uncomfortable periods where you're discovering more and more truth, and sometimes the truth is not what you want to hear. The truth. What's that?
You can't handle the truth.
Yes, and are you ready for that level of truth? Are you ready for the ultimate, really thing that is behind this whole illusory display? Is that something that you can handle? And for a long time, so when I went through my own spiritual awakening, it was 2010, somewhere around then. I mean, I had lived many years basically of having non-abiding awakening moments. Do you know what that means?
No.
So abiding means it's permanent, and non-abiding means it doesn't abide. It's not permanent. In other words, you have an awakening glimpse, drop into the body. My peripheral vision opens up. I feel one with everything. I'm super relaxed. And everything is in its right place. Mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers, as they say. And what happens is it's like you just got a little jump start, your engine jump start, and that'll last a day or a week or whatever. And then it goes away, and you're dropped down in the streets of Baltimore. And you're like, fuck, what happened? So that's what non-abiding is. And I think a lot of people go through that, where they kind of like the engine needs to turn over a few times before it putters continually. And that certainly happened with me. So then in 2010, I couldn't even tell the difference. I had hit that ignition switch on my own engine for awakening so many times. I'd had so many, hundreds and hundreds of Nirvikalpa Samadhi experiences with teachers, without teachers, on my own, blah, blah, blah. And when it finally happened, I couldn't really tell the difference. And I walked through this doorway, and it took me a while, like 2 or 3 weeks, to realize that, oh, my depression's gone. I don't feel separate anymore. And wow, okay, I can raise my hand and say, I'm awake. And my heart was open. Mm. So, and the reason I'm telling this story is that fast forward about, 15 years or so, I don't know about you or anybody else out there, but after working all that hard, after all that hard work, I just wanted to be I didn't want to think about it anymore. I just wanted to live my life and enjoy a life depression free. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't worried about, what more is there after spiritual awakening? And, in other words, I was content with being the observer. I was content with being awake within the dream, which is really what spiritual awakening is. You're awake within the dream, which means you've discovered this witnessing, watching part of you, and it has moved to the foreground, and your ego has moved to the background. it's a really beautiful thing because there's a lot of freedom that comes with that, a lot of spaciousness, a lot of feeling fine, that, you know, you can roll with the punches so much easier when you're when you're when you're identified as the witness, as this awareness. But there's another odd thing, and this has started to happen to me in the last couple of years, and I'm going to be 55 soon. And it probably has something to do with age and with just the natural progression of the awakening process, which does, in my opinion, does not end at spiritual awakening. And it really gets into a whole other avenue area, which utilizes a word that I was always just had never a word that I had wanted nothing to do with, which is enlightenment. Mm-hmm. You know, what is enlightenment? And it really wasn't in the last couple of years that this unsettling sense feeling and a couple of particular experiences blasted me into having a how do I want to express it right now? A pretty good taste, pretty confident taste of what enlightenment is. And it's been rather odd. I've been kind of like coming to terms with this process, and it's been rather unsettling. And again, we all go through the whole spiritual process is a matter of like growing comfortable with and being able to handle the truth, as you said earlier. And so, and so one of the things about this is that you had mentioned Brahman earlier, which is of course, the Hindu, that's the ultimate conscious one. That is the embodiment of pure consciousness. And Atman is this experience here, where we embody consciousness, we embody Brahman here in this dream, and then there's this whole display, which is Maya. And so touching Brahman, is what I'm getting at, is very disconcerting, because it has been for me. Let me put it that way. Because you discover essentially that the whole thing is happening within inside of you, and this whole thing is a dream, and there's only one dreamer, and that dreamer is Brahman, and you are Brahman. I'm Brahman. You're Brahman, Gary. But to philosophize about it, to conceptually read about it in the Bhagavad Gita, is much, much different to actually touching it.
Yeah.
And that I've been going through some shit recently with this, in my meditations. And, I think I'm coming out on the other side where I'm growing used to it. But yeah, it's the ultimate sense of aloneness.
Yeah.
You know, ultimate sense of aloneness. And the ego is the finite part of the human being, the finite part of J. Stewart Dixon has really struggled with it.
Yeah.
But it is true. You know, it feels absolutely, completely true. And I've grown a little more comfortable with it, not completely, but does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Where do you think the discomfort comes from? What is discomforting in that?
Well, it's this realization that, okay, so so Brahman could be defined as nothing forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just emptiness, a void, nothing forever. And it's really hard to convey this ultimate aloneness, but it seems like it is the absolute truth, that there's just nothing forever, and that is Brahman. Okay, and so the uncomfortableness, it comes from realizing that all I've done in this lifetime is unravel the dream. I have unraveled this display. I have unraveled a solution to the problem with Brahman, because Brahman very clearly has got a problem. The problem is nothing forever. It's this sense of boredom, and what can it do? It will dream a dream, and it dreams a dream of universes and planets and stars and galaxies and infinity of life and civilizations and wars and people and organisms and creatures, and it becomes the multitude. And it's the metaphor that I read once was like, there's this man, this lonely man who lived on an absolutely desolate planet, nobody else, no other thing, and he comes upon this tree, and it's the first thing he's seen in decades, and there's an opening in the tree, and he crawls into the opening, and he falls asleep, and he dreams a lifetime of many people and societies and groups and others. And then he wakes up and he comes back out, and the tree says to him, "Did you enjoy your break? Did you enjoy your break?" And that's the disconcerting part about it, is that Brahman, nothing forever. And then here we are, basically what spiritual awakening, what enlightenment points to, is the unraveling of the dream. And then, so now I'm going back to Brahman. And then what? Does it just, it's infinite. I can only, infinity is the only thing that makes sense, really, right?
Yep.
So the finite part of J. Stewart Dixon is like, it's very unsettling.
Yeah.
To think that, what have I done? I ruined a good thing.
In a way, yes. I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I spoiled the, I'm the party
spoiled
pooper.
The fun. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, spoiled the fun. Yeah, it's like, now I will say this. I feel as though that I'm projecting my limitations onto Brahman, right? Onto the ultimate consciousness. I'm projecting that. But I just, there's a lot of unknowns here. But I can't help but but the finite part of me can't help but to experience that. A little bit of like ultimate spiritual existential anxiety.
Yeah.
Is how I would describe that. It's like, what in the fuck have I got? I just, basically I've spent my whole life ripping apart the threads of of existence.
Yeah.
Was I so smart to do this? Was this the wisest thing to do?
I know
what's going to happen afterwards? What happens when I die? Because I have no fucking, I don't know about you, my friend, but I have no fucking clue what happens when I die. No clue.
We're supposed to.
Yeah.
I don't think there's actually much that we could speak upon on that. And I think really in that essence of infinity, life and death are the same thing. And that may seem like, what does that even mean? But at that ultimate point of Brahman, it's hard to convey, but life and death are the same thing. They're needed. Just as the void. Well, the thing is like, I would say and extend upon what you said, our sense of individuality is needed just as much as the void. Like you can't just have the void. You can't just have individuality. We need to be able to experience both. I think you mentioned this in the beginning. It's the paradox. You start to unveil the seeming paradox in it all. Yeah. And when the human mind tries to compute that, it doesn't add up. And then yes, anxiety can come from that for sure, because it's like you're trying to, especially if you're really logical and rational, you're like, how does this make sense? Like 1 + 1 = 3. Well, it doesn't make any sense. And just like too much. So it's really, that's why they say everything is real except what you think, man. Because if you try to think your way out of it, it's not going to work. Yeah. And the beauty of it is once you do figure out that there is Brahman, there is the infinite void, well, the show still goes on. That's the thing. And the show never stops too. Even when you do die, the show goes on. Like there's no way for the show to stop. It always goes on forever. And I think that's actually where I find a little bit of semblance of peace in coming to terms with this whole existential realization of it's just the void, or everything is nothing forever. It's that like how do I put this?
Well, we're here now, so if we
Yeah.
can get here once, we can return again.
Yeah, exactly. It might just look a little bit different, that's
Yeah.
for sure, but there's always going to be something, and there's always going to be nothing. They feed off each other. It's just yin and yang. That's the basic yin and yang
Yeah,
right there.
like awareness needs to be aware of something, right? So light enters the picture, and then manifestation, and I mean this is what happens when you get involved in spirituality. You actually start taking steps down the path. Is you arrive to a philosophical edge.
Yeah.
And you can't help to become if you're truly longing to wake up and to know what the truth is, and are tired of this display, because that's also the paradox too. It's just like I'm a little at this age, have some existential anxiety about what I've done, but on the other hand, there's I came into this life just going, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of this life. I'm tired of I don't like this. I don't like conditional three-dimensional existence. It is just suffering, basically, as our friend Gautama the Buddha said, it's just suffering.
Yeah.
So I feel both of those things, and it's just a philosophical, paradoxical conundrum. And this is to round out our conversation. This is why I guess I'm on both teams. I got no problem with ego. I got no problem with the illusion. I got no problem with Maya. It's this grand display where it's entertainment for Brahman, and more power to Maya, more power to this place, and it doesn't matter if you have a good lifetime or a bad lifetime. It's all the same. It's entertainment value.
Entertainment at the end of the day.
And so it's a Leela. So I'm like I think that's my approach to spirituality, basically, is like, in my books and the way that I, on my videos on my YouTube channel, I try to be entertaining and funny and poignant and profound and insipid and ridiculous and inane, the whole package.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be breathy, slow, and awake. I have no tolerance for that. Although I do at times display that. There are times when breathy and awake and slow and still is appropriate. But there are other times where I'm like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with ego. There's nothing wrong with mind. There's nothing wrong with the struggles of life. So it's a little bit of both. I think for those who are watching, who may be watching this thing, and you may agree with me here, there's tremendous value to be gained with awakening and with spirituality, if you're feeling like life isn't good enough, but it's not a cure-all to everything. It's not a quick fix. It's not I'll be the first to tell you, and I've been involved in this a very long time. I've had many, many realizations. I've woken up to a good part of my true self, and I still struggle, and struggle doesn't go away. I still struggle with shit,
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's about it. That's my take on, the whole package, pretty much.
Well, that's well said. It's the middle way, man. It's the middle way.
Is that what it was? That's what they call Buddhism, right? Isn't
That's what Buddha found. Is the middle way.
the middle way? Okay, yeah.
He tried the asceticism.
Right, the middle way.
Tried to almost rush enlightening, which he did become enlightened with the Bodhi tree. But then he figured out, wait a second, it's not all just about the void. I got to come back into the kingdom and teach and show others. So I think that's really what this is about too. Is like kind of figuring this out yourself and spreading the love, per se.
Yeah. Or the sarcasm.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think that's kind of the essence of enlightenment, if we can even try and talk upon it. It's that to be okay with the seeming void, the Brahman that always persists, and to
Yeah.
be okay with the suffering of the human condition and somehow balance the two. There is some kind of dance and balancing act that
Yeah.
one can find within themselves. It's like you don't rush for this to end, but you're also not okay when it ends either. There's somehow some kind of balance. And that's how I see
Yeah.
awakened beings. That's how I see realized beings, is they're okay with dying. They're
Yeah.
okay with living. Because
Yeah.
think of the spectrum of human emotion, right?
Yeah.
Some people, they cling to life. They just want to be alive. Like they don't want to die. But some people, they want to die. Some people right now, like they're so depressed, they just want to get out of it. So I
Yeah.
think somehow it's like what this path is really alludes to is being okay with both parties and both camps and having that balancing act within oneself and one's emotion and figuring out how it works for themselves and their own subjective experience, because we're all different. But if
Yeah.
you can take the Buddha's story of his middle way and translate that into your life, there's a lot of benefit for that, I find.
Yeah. I think that's well said. And thank you for that. It's really good to have these conversations. A lot of times, man, you just can't go to the gym and have these conversations. So
I can't have these at the bar, that's for sure.
or at the bar,
Yeah.
and it makes you feel a little less. It makes you paradoxically feel a little less lonely.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though what we're talking about is ultimate aloneness, right?
Yeah, but we're alone together. That's what I
Yeah.
like to look at it, or how I
Yeah.
like to look at it, is that
Yeah.
that's the point of this whole thing, is we're all one together. That's the true paradox, is that somehow, some way, we were one. There's just one of us here, but yet
Yeah.
I'm Gary and you're Jay and the listener, and there's
Yeah.
always gonna be that other
Yeah.
aspect of ourself. It's like they're both. It's always both, man. It's always both in spirituality. Just keep that in the back of one's head. It's always both. There's never
Yeah.
like a concrete.
Yeah, which is really strange, given that that the whole title and nomenclature for what we're talking about, at least these days, is called non-duality.
Yeah, not two. Right.
Not two. And I think I have, and this is why I've grown kind of like persnickety with, I never call myself a non-duality teacher ever, or author. I've grown persnickety with it because actually the longer I've been involved with this, the more it seems like actually duality is a fundamental state of fucking existence. There's Brahman, and then Brahman has a dream, and that's two. Even though two isn't real, and Brahman is real.
Yeah.
But that's fucking two. Here we are, two. The more awake I become, the more fucking schizophrenic I actually think I become. The more dual I become.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Eat shit, non-dual philosophers. Eat that shit.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing, is it's yeah, man. I understand that. I guess it depends on what side of the coin you're looking at it from, because it really is all one. It really is all, there is all one. All of this entire infinite universe. It's one entire infinite universe.
Yes.
But it's fragmented into two. It's like it's all one pie within different pieces of the pie. And it's both and neither. It's
like from the point of view of Brahman, you could say none of this shit's real, right? Life isn't real. None of this exists. Your mom and dad don't exist.
Yeah.
I don't exist.
YouTube videos saying that.
What's that?
There's plenty of YouTube videos that say that.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, I just want to And last night when you were jerking off while you were smoking cigarettes, that you didn't exist then either, did you? That's basically my response to that argument.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't be totally, I won't totally, punch that theory in the gut of we don't exist, because from Brahman's point of view, I get it. It's a dream. From the point of view, if we're going to say Brahman is actually the truth and reality, okay, and is dreaming all of this, then this whole thing, it does not exist. I get
all temporary. Yeah.
It's all a fucking fart in the wind, as far as the eons of existence that the galaxies and the universe have been in manifest. Whatever, have been around are a fart in the wind to Brahman. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I got it. Illusion. Yeah, none of this exists. On the other hand, it's all fucking relative, because here in the dream, it's absolutely, completely real. And that's the genius of the dream. That's the genius of Maya. That's the genius of the illusion. It feels absolutely real. So what's the difference? We're totally talking about the Matrix. Give me the fucking steak, give me the blue pill, and put me back in the Matrix.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, man. That's the thing. It's the same thing, just different perspectives. It's like there's some people I categorize in the camp of anatta, no self. Oh, they're at the no self part. Yeah. And I know how to talk to those people. And then there's people that are in the it's all one, it all exists. It's all real. And I'm like, oh, I know how to talk to them. That's how they're talking. This is how I can approach this. But it's the same thing. It's the same essence. It's the same truth that can't be conveyed. And like I said, it's both.
and you know what's great? And this is where I often I find myself being judgmental or persnickety about non-dual teachers that say, oh, drop the story. There is no self. And ego is bad, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there are actually some people that need to hear that because they're so lost in mind.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They're so lost in personality. They need someone to come through. They need someone to speak to them and say, drop the self, drop the personality, and forget your story. And what they're really saying there is notice that there is a part of you that is free and clear of all of those things. Mm-hmm. Notice that. And some people, they need to be, bopped in the face that way so that they kind of get it. And so that has its place. Those types of teachers has its place. And it's easy to ridicule them because you can argue, oh, well, they are being one-sided. They're not. It's not really healthy that they're exclusively for this. Maybe sometimes it feels like in a psychotic way where you don't display any emotion. Mm-hmm. There's no story. There's no personality. They don't refer to themselves as me or I. It's just bullshit. It just seems like bullshit. But there's some people that need to hear that. And I get it.
See that. Yeah, it's because the popular paradigm is that the self is the lowercase s self, and that's just me, a sort of solipsism. Like there's just Gary, the world and the universe revolves around me and this body, and that's it. Yep. That's the self that needs to be penetrated in order to see that one is at one with Brahman. And when they say non-duality, as in not two, it means it's not me in you. Like they're saying that's the not two. It's like we're actually one. Me and you are one. And Brahman is actually the you and Brahman. We talk about it as two things, but that's actually one. That's actually like you are Brahman, and that's the key. It's like you have to see beyond the illusion of two, of me and you, to be able to see that we are not two, but we are also not two with Brahman. Am I making sense here?
Absolutely. You're trying to linguistically detail that which is impossible to detail linguistically. Yeah. It's a paradox. You can't. It's really hard to speak about. It's really hard to convey. But I got you, brother, because I do. Because I too have smoked plenty of weed and thought about these things.
Yes, many late nights and high-grade marijuana sessions and that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, absolutely. This is just the, I don't know how I often how in the world did I end up here? I just have these times where I'm like, how did
same. Yeah.
Why am I overthinking this shit? Why can't I just be happy watching a football game on a Sunday afternoon? But I'm not. I just can't.
Well, you know what it is, man? I think it's once you tap into this essence, this kind of understanding within oneself, you can't go back, first of all.
No.
And second of all, I feel like it's like you feel like nothing else I was gonna say nothing else is real, and nothing else really matters as
Yeah.
much as what we're talking about, because this is really the essence of what
Yeah.
the hell is going on. And like we said, this is kind of how we both got on the path. We were like, what the hell is like, what really is life? What
Yeah.
really is death? What really is going on here, man? And this is kind of the essence. So, once you get on that path, there's no going back, and you can't like, how do I put this, man? To me, like, I can't stop talking about it. I can't stop thinking about it, because I know that this is like, there's something to this.
It's classic. You can't unsee this shit.
Yeah.
That's basically that's the, once you see it, you're like, oh fuck. That actually, once you've pulled back the curtain on Oz.
Yeah.
You know, and you're
Saw
looking
behind
at
the scenes.
Yeah, you're looking at it and you're like, oh fuck, you know, and so you're awake basically, and you're living this life where, like, yeah, you can fake it, you know, and I can fake it, but it certainly is really nice to like get naked, you know, and expose yourself like what we're doing here, and just revel in, you know, what seems it's this like we revel in
the mystery,
in the unknown, in our divine ignorance. But at the same time, we can also proudly behold the amount of work and intelligence and intuition and wisdom that it took to actually arrive to this space, you know. So it's both of those things. It's like, sure, I feel like I'm treading in some pretty deep philosophical waters here, but at the same time, weirdly enough, I also feel just like a dumb shit, you know, a lot of the times.
The Socratic, man. The more you know that you don't know.
Yeah, that's. Have you ever read Jed Mckenna's works?
No, I've heard a lot about him, but I've never dove into his stuff.
Yeah, he's the only, right now for me, he's my only teacher at this point. And he's not available as a teacher. He's only available as an author. He's actually, which is part of his brilliance, he is anonymous. You won't find pictures. He has no website.
Wow, that's respect.
Yeah, he's yeah, I mean, there's nothing. There's only his books. You will find nothing about him.
Wow.
He doesn't
Muhammad.
do. What's that?
It's like Muhammad.
Muhammad? Like
Muhammad? The Quran? Like, you
know,
okay.
Images
of Muhammad, you know.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was trying to correlate there. Yeah, you're right. It's like Muhammad. Yeah, he's totally a modern day, you know, Muhammad. You don't. This guy. I highly recommend his works. It's like nothing else.
Okay.
It's not like reading a dry non-dual book at all. He's very entertaining, very witty, very in your fucking face, you know, and describes enlightenment and everything that we've been talking about in very unsettling, disconcerting ways. He's not selling it like the peak of the mountain, rainbows and puppy dogs, gold star, lovey-dovey, one with the universe way that every other teacher sells it, which I madly respect. And just some genius fucking writing. And my own work has been influenced by him, for sure. And so he has about 10 books, and I've read them all. I've read many of them through like multiple times. I've read all 10 probably twice, like consecutively read all through. And he has a way with words that, trust me when I say, is very strikingly different in his philosophical points that he makes and his definition of enlightenment, his criticism of non-duality, his criticism of mindfulness, criticism of spiritual awakening, criticism of the Bhagavad Gita. Well, he just, you know, classic Jed McKenna. This is a quote: Buddhism produces Buddhists, not who does. Not who does. And that's one small little quote of his criticism of the whole spiritual process. For 99% of the people, we're wanting to make our spirituality is just a means to make us a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rare percentage who actually want to know what the truth is. They want to wake the fuck all the way the fuck up, not just in the dream, but out of the dream.
Mm.
And he talks about those things. And maybe I'm just haven't investigated enough, but I certainly haven't run into any other teachers that speak like that in the way that he speaks about it. His no holds bar approach and willingness to criticize and willingness to go way out on an existential philosophical limb is so admirable and so entertaining and so completely just fucking off the charts, badass, amazing. But I read a few of his books. You'll dig it.
Oh, I'll heed your advice. Shout out Jed Mckenna.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Where are we with time?
Yeah, we're a little over an hour. I mean, how much time you got? You want to wrap this thing up?
I'm good. If you have any other questions, whatever you think. I feel like we've gone pretty deep here.
We've gone pretty deep. Let me wrap up with this one. I'll ask you one more.
Okay.
We said this is sort of a harrowing thing for one to bestow upon themselves, to go into the depths of the void. Would you want to go back, though? Would you want to go into a state of ignorant bliss?
Back to Brahman?
Back to ignorance.
Oh, ignorant bliss. Okay, back
not
here.
Even knowing it's a thing, the old paradigm of the lowercase s self.
Right. Well, I think that I can only imagine that I have no choice. That's what I think. I think that here's the scary part about this whole process. I think I think we're stuck in infinity. I think
samsara.
Samsara or nirvana, both.
Exactly.
What's the difference? Harking back to what you said earlier, it's like, would I want to come back as small self? A caveman and early evolutionary. I guess so. I did it this time. I'm imagining that this particular being, this particular soul, J. Stewart Dixon, has lifetimes, and I have evolved to this lifetime where I want to now be done. I'm done with Disneyland. No, thank you. And now I go back. And then now you're asking, would I want to go back and be blissful ignorance again in a small self? And I can only imagine the answer to that would be yes. Strictly for its complete entertainment value. What are my options? My options are the nothing forever. And I think that must be the case. I find it so disconcerting and so maddening that we can't get that and I feel like I've done quite a bit of reading. I feel like I've investigated enough. And that's what it boils down to. That's what this whole thing boils down to. Really? The universe was bored that this is entertainment. That's it in a nutshell right there. It's like, you fucking gotta be kidding me.
It's kind of a joke, right?
Yeah.
That's how I like to think. If we can sort of conceptualize God, the archetype of the logos, it's sort of gesture like. God is a comedian. He's the greatest comedian of all time. Well, sometimes that's how I see it.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't know. I mean, again, we're stuck in infinity. So what am I going to do? Am I going to get off the ride, and then where will I be? At a yacht club in South Miami? I mean, where am I going to be? Yeah. Where am I going to go? Mm-hmm. There's no. There's the void. There's nothing forever, or there's this infinite display of Maya. So my answer to your question, is I would come back. I guess I would. Mm-hmm. I think, man. Okay, let's go back a couple thousand years where we were beating each other with fucking sticks, right? Mm-hmm. And swords. There's on the battlefield, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, with Arjuna and the whole thing. There's a certain kind of embrace the fucking moment. That's that whole scene is in the Bhagavad Gita is about. It's like, I think, I'm terrible with the names of the deities.
Krishna.
Krishna comes down and says,
Mhm.
what the fuck are you doing, man?
Mhm.
Pick up your fucking sword and fight. In other
Yeah.
words, what he's saying is like, partake, be alive, enjoy it. So I think that to devolve, there must be a certain type of like animalistic enlightenment where it's like your cat. Cat's got no problems, but it's not enlightened. It's not conscious. It's not self-aware. Well, maybe it is self-aware. I don't know, but
Cats might be self-aware.
yeah, they might be. Those little motherfuckers are probably more self-aware than we are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There must be. Do you see what I'm grokking at here? In other words, there's equal amount of like, as horrible as it may seem to be beating on each other with sticks and living off of dirt in a cave, there's something that is sublime and awesome and amazing about that as well, in some paradoxical way, to Brahman.
Yep.
Right.
Brahman. That's
so
amazing.
I don't know if you were here in person, I would say, pass the bong and let's go a little further. and hopefully all this would do, Gary, the bong passing, all it would really do is it would make us shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, what are we doing, man? Let's go fishing. Let's drink beer and go fishing. Fuck this shit. Fuck all this philosophical stuff.
Exactly. There's only so much you could say. Oh, man. There's only so much we could talk about and how many questions you could ask. Yeah, I always reach that quandary, man, in these talks. I'm like, all right, well, I think I reached the end,
Yes, and I'm the same way. It's like, but you know what? I deeply appreciate this. I deeply appreciate these conversations, because they counterbalance the rest of my life, and probably yours too, where all there is fishing and beer and football,
and the Red Sox.
And all of the humdrum surface level of life, and I'm okay with that. But it is certainly a delight to speak with others who get both ends of the spectrum. So thank you.
Amen. Thank you to you, man. Seriously. Yeah, I feel the same. Couldn't have said it better myself. This is what I do it for. Because, to tap in with other people and to know that I'm not crazy. There's also other people.
Yeah, we're both definitely certifiable, but in our little circles, we'll define ourselves as not being crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Whatever we got to tell ourselves. But yeah, man, I thank you for coming on here. I think this was pretty insightful. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's art for art's sake. That's what I like to say. It's art for art's sake. And that's it. Just keep it at that. Which is just life is just an infinite art.
Yeah. So here, I get to plug my book before we go.
Of course. There it is.
Pick up a copy. It's on Amazon, any place else that
I got it too right here.
Yeah, awesome, beautiful. Yeah, that it is a irreverent, fun ride through the delightful adventure of spiritual awakening, mindfulness, and in book 2, Enlightenment and Brahman, and everything we've been talking about here. Enjoy. So thank you. Thanks for the plug.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate anybody that listened this long. Hopefully you made some kind of sense. If we didn't, well, too late.
If we didn't, just smoke a little cannabis and rewatch it.
Yeah, right. It'll be a totally different episode. All right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, Alrighty. Yeah, man. I thank you for coming on here. Appreciate you. Keep on doing your thing. You're a real one.
Thanks.
That's it. Peace and love,
brother.
man.
Yeah, same to you. Bye-bye.
Peace.